Good morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Cieslak, WPA's Executive Director, and I'm honored to be here with all of you today. On behalf of the Wisconsin Parkinson Association, welcome to our 2025 Spring Symposium. It's truly inspiring to see so many of you in the room. There's been a lot of planning and coordinating, and so the energy of talking with all of you this morning is really exciting for us. We have over 500 people registered today. So, yes. Whether it's your first symposium or your 10th, we're very glad you're here. We have a great day planned, and it's all about learning, connecting, and feeling empowered. You can find the full agenda in your program or on the signage around the room. I would like to highlight a really top-tier mission moment that we had in the last couple years. Our theme this year is Empowered Living, and I want to share a moment that perfectly captures that spirit. A few weeks ago, a group of individuals with Parkinson's gathered at Adventure Rock in Brookfield. Not for a meeting, not for a lecture, but to rock climb. That's right. They harnessed up, faced the wall, and climbed. Some had never done anything like that before. And yet, there they were, Linda, Ron, Pam, and many others, pushing themselves, cheering each other on, and proving something powerful, that Parkinson's may be part of their story, but it doesn't define the limits of their lives. It was incredible to witness, not because everybody made it to the top, but because everybody showed up, just like all of you showed up here today. That's empowerment. And while rock climbing might not be for everybody, that's okay. The real takeaway is this: what's your version of the climb? What helps you feel strong, alive, and engaged? Maybe it's drinking a morning cup of coffee while watching the sunrise and the songbirds on the feeder, or taking a nature walk and spotting the early signs of spring. Maybe we actually will get a spring here in Wisconsin, I'm not sure. Perhaps for you it's spending time with friends and family, gardening, volunteering, or simply showing up to a support or mindful movement exercise class. Empowered living doesn't look the same for all of us, but it's always about taking those steps, however big or small, toward your goal that makes it feel like you. That's what today is all about, empowered living. So next before we dive into the program, I'd like to introduce our WPA team. We have Jennifer Armbruster, our Community Engagement and Events Coordinator. Some of you, I think, are in the room. Hey, Jen. Jill Compton, who's with us in spirit today. Raven Hamilton, our Operations Manager. Daisy Reimer, our Director of Medical Advising and Education, who you'll see a lot of today. She's also our Program Facilitator. It takes a lot to put an event like this on, so thank you to all of you for your tireless efforts. Next, I'd like to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors and exhibitors. Their support helps us bring this event to life, and we are truly grateful for their support. First, I'd like to acknowledge our Hope sponsors, Network Health and Supernus Pharmaceuticals. Those are our two $10,000 Hope sponsors. We'll be hearing from both of those sponsors later on in the program. Thank you also to the rest of our sponsors, our $3,000 support sponsors, Abbott and AbbVie, and our $1,500 resource sponsors. We have Boston Scientific, Care Patrol of the Fox Cities, Gallagher Lake Country Real Estate, East Castle Place, ePlatinum Health, Schober, and Mitchell Attorneys, and Smart Moves. I'd like to also thank our bus sponsor, Neuroscience Group. And now I'm thrilled to introduce our keynote speaker, Stephanie Wagner, Director of Learning and Development from Healthy Minds Innovations. Stephanie helps to build a culture of learning and continuous improvement for clients, the Healthy Minds program community, and the HMI team. She was a part of the first cohort of coaches to become National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coaches through the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. Her additional areas of study and certification include trauma-sensitive mindfulness, the neuroscience of change, plant-based nutrition, tiny habits, and ATD e-learning instructional design. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Stephanie Wagner.
Well, hello everyone. I am delighted to be here with you today to talk about what I think we all know is a very important topic, which is the topic of well-being. So even though I don't know any of you, I think we can all say that yes, well-being is something that's important. And I'm here today to maybe share a little bit of a different perspective around well-being, that is that well-being is a skill that we can actually learn. So I want to take a moment to introduce you to part of the reason why I agreed to be here today. I want to introduce you to Jim and Bill. Jim, on the right-hand side without the glasses, is my father-in-law, and Bill is next to him. They've been best friends since 1979. About 7 years ago, Bill was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and Jim took it upon himself, because Bill doesn't have any kids, to really help him on his Parkinson's journey. And I have had the good fortune of witnessing an incredible amount of care, compassion, kindness, appreciation, all throughout their journey together. However, one of the things that I've been struck by, and I think that this is mainly due to the fact that in my profession, I'm really dealing on the realm of mental training, so mental well-being. I've noticed the amount of emphasis that's gone into caring for Bill's physical body. So of course, they're making sure that he's got the right medication, that he's got the right support, he's got the right equipment, and of course, all of these aspects of well-being are really important. The physical body matters. However, what I've also noticed is the lack of emphasis, or even the lack of attention on mental qualities that actually can be trained and are really helpful in cultivating resilience and even gaining the ability to be able to thrive, to flourish in the face of adversity. So we are human beings. We're more than just our bodies. And so to be able to capture and harness the power of the mind is a really, really important aspect of well-being. And that's the reason why I'm here to speak to you today, to talk about these different mental qualities of well-being, like appreciation, like presence, curiosity, and finding meaning. One of the ways that we can actually work really skillfully is around the area of outlook. So of course, outlook is sort of the way in which we see the world. We see the world through a certain color of glasses. And oftentimes our outlook can be quite negative, especially when we're having a tough time. So we can actually counteract this tendency to have a negative outlook through practicing the skill of appreciation. So before I go any further, what I'd like to do is I'd like to lead you in an experiential moment of training your mind in two different skills. One is a brief moment of presence to settle in together, and one is the skill of appreciation. Are you willing to give it a try with me? Yeah? Okay. So let's go ahead and settle in here. I'll just invite you to take a posture that just feels like you're alert, you're awake, so that might mean your feet are on the floor, Your hands are in your lap. Okay, I can see everybody like straightening up a little bit. That's nice. And you can choose to do this practice with your eyes open or your eyes closed, whatever feels the best for you. And I want you to just take a moment to notice the feeling of your seat and your back being supported by your chair. Notice the feeling of softness or firmness. Feel the sense of weight or gravity in your body. And there's just a sense of you sitting here right now. Now I'll invite you to bring to mind someone in your life that you appreciate. Might be a family member, caregiver, friend. Bring them to your mind. And begin to reflect on some of the things that you appreciate about this person. Might be that they have a lot of patience, kindness. So just bring some of those qualities to your mind. And now I'll invite you to shift away from this person that you appreciate to just thinking about some of the positive things that you have in your life right now. It might be access to resources, this wonderful Parkinson's community. So just bring a few things to your mind. Okay, so you can now come out of the practice. Wonderful. And I'm going to now ask for, hopefully, for a moment of interaction if we can. So we're going to see how this goes. Joe, can we put the Mentimeter on the slide? So this could either be epically fun or a disaster, so we're going to see how this goes. So I want you, if you have the knowledge of how to do so, I want you to take out your phone. And I want you to get on the internet, and I want you to go to menti.com, MENTI.com. And I'd like you to go on to the code that you can see on the slide here. I'll read it out for you in just a moment for those of you that might not be able to see. The code is 3317 0629. And I want you to write down something that came up in your practice, your mental training. What do you appreciate? We're going to generate a word cloud here. So parents, freedom, daughter, husband, God. Wonderful. Dog. All right, keep it going. Church, community, support system, humor. Oh, this is amazing. My heart is just bursting looking at all of these things that you appreciate. All right, we'll give it one more minute here. All right, I'm seeing a lot around social support, spiritual support, pet support. All right, that is amazing. Thank you so much. We'll move on here, but you can keep going if you like, and maybe we can return to that at some point during the presentation. All right, so I want to share with you what you just did in that moment of mental training. You practiced two really important skills, the skill of mindfulness and the skill of appreciation. So we define appreciation as a skill that can be trained and practiced with intention, and it is the skill of noticing the positive. Now, this is actually a really important skill to train because we are, as human beings, hardwired to detect threats in our environment. We kind of tend to seek out looking for what's not normal, looking for what's out of place, what's negative. And this is due to our evolutionary biology. Back when we were cave people, we had to be able to scan for the saber-toothed tiger so that we could actually escape if they were going to attack us. So we had to have this readiness to flee. So fast forward to modern day, and this tendency to seek out what's wrong, to detect threats in our environment no longer serves us so much. And what it causes us to do is it causes us to have this hyper tendency to focus on the negative. So even though when things are going well, we might have things in our life that are going smoothly, we've got resources, we've got friends and family, we've got spiritual communities, we just don't see those things because we're so focused on the negative. So here we can actually treat appreciation like a skill, where we can train ourselves to notice what is going well, to notice what is positive in our lives, even when we are encountering tough times. So this isn't about taking something negative and turning it into something positive. It's about recognizing, oh, there are actually positives here that I actually just don't normally see. So let me tell you just a little bit about who I work for and the reason why I'm here today. I work for a nonprofit that's called Healthy Minds Innovations. And we are affiliated with a research institution at the University of Wisconsin-Madison called the Center for Healthy Minds. And what we do at Healthy Minds Innovations is we translate decades of research in the neuroscience of well-being, and we translate them into tools to help people just like you both practice as well as cultivate well-being. And so everything that we do in the world is really in service of our vision, which is to support the creation of a kinder, wiser, more compassionate world. We have a training program for the mind that's completely free. This is the basis of what I'm introducing you today, called the Healthy Minds Program. And so I will talk a little bit about this at the end of the presentation. So during our time together today, I'm going to talk a little bit about this notion of well-being as a skill that can be learned. I'll talk about how mental training can help us recover from negative events. I'll introduce you to a unique framework of well-being, which is the 4 pillars of a healthy mind. And then I'll also introduce you to, at the very end, the app as a tool. So some of the guiding questions that fuels our work at Healthy Minds Innovations are things like, what qualities help us to be more resilient in the face of challenges? So we define resiliency here as our capacity to be able to recover from adversity. We all encounter tough times, and so the question is, what are the qualities that can help us bounce back more quickly when times are tough? And then on the flip side of that then, what are the qualities that help us to flourish? What helps us to be at the top of our game even when things are going well? And what we've landed on here then, and this is the fundamental approach to our work in the world and the science, the neuroscience of training the mind, is that well-being is a skill that can be learned. So normally, when we think about experiencing well-being, it is very much contingent on our external circumstances. When things are going well, when our relationships are harmonious, when our body is healthy, we experience high levels of well-being. And then, when times are tough, when we get a devastating diagnosis, when we've got conflict in our relationships, we experience low levels of well-being. So what the science is pointing to here is the fact that we can actually experience well-being as a baseline that is in spite of what's happening in our external circumstances. We can actually connect with this kind of fundamental sense of okayness, this fundamental sense of well-being through mental training. And the reason for this is something called neuroplasticity. So how many of you, by show of hands, have heard the term neuroplasticity? My guess is that many of you have. Okay, about half of you have. So neuroplasticity is this kind of like really inspiring capacity of our brain. And our brains have this capacity to change. And the truth is that our brains are changing all of the time, and it isn't always positive. Our brains are changing in response to what's happening in the world around us. So for example, every time you habitually pick up your cell phone and you might, scroll the news, you might get on social media, and it's kind of unconscious, you're more and more training yourself to be distracted. And in fact, the science points to the fact that distraction is associated with lower levels of well-being. There was a research study that was done in 2010, before the pandemic, which showed that if you're like the average human, we're distracted about 47% of our waking lives. And that was before really the prominence of cell phones and technology that we have today. So that isn't even the most compelling thing. The most compelling thing is that distraction is associated with lower levels of well-being. So what we can do is we can actually harness this capacity for our brains to change in positive ways through mental training. Essentially what this means is that we're putting ourselves in the driver's seat of our own mind. We can begin to learn how to regulate our thoughts, regulate our emotions. We can work with our outlook. We can practice curiosity. So we can actually learn how to harness the power of the mind through mental training. So this kind of inspiring quality of the mind, this inspiring quality of the brain, actually points to the fact that both change is possible, as well as well-being is possible. I think that there's something that we can get into our heads that like when we reach a certain phase in life, we're like, I can't change. It's been this way for a long time. But actually, the neuroscience of well-being does point to the fact that we can indeed change. We just have to practice, and it takes some intention. So I'm going to give you an example of the power of mental training here through sharing with you a metaphor that comes from the Asian meditative tradition, and it's a story called The Two Arrows. And this metaphor of the two arrows, I'm actually going to use the example of getting a medical diagnosis, not because we're here centered around Parkinson's, but more because being in this human body, we all inevitably get a medical diagnosis at some point in our lives, and we receive news that we don't want to hear. So if this example doesn't resonate with you, this actually can be applied to many challenges in our lives, but just go with me here as I talk through this example. So I want you to imagine that you're in the doctor's office, and you've just had some tests done, you've been having some symptoms of something, and the doctor walks in and sits down, and with a caring and measured tone, delivers you the news that you did not want to hear. So that's the first arrow. The first arrow is, this is a really tough diagnosis. There's sadness, there's fear, there's uncertainty. All of these are very natural responses to getting whatever the diagnosis is. That's the first arrow. The second arrow, then, is the way that our mind kind of begins to interpret and almost make a story about what's happening. And this story is usually never good news, and it's usually often exaggerated. So the story might go something like this. This is terrible, my life is over. I'm going to be a burden. Why me? This isn't fair. So again, these are natural responses, but these are all of these narratives that we put on the already painful diagnosis, which is the first arrow. So, mental training means that there is actually a different way to relate to what's going on. The situation is the same. The doctor comes in, you get your diagnosis, you experience the pain of it. That is completely normal. But instead, with mental training, you can relate to the diagnosis differently. You can relate to the challenging circumstance differently. You might think to yourself, this is a challenge. I'm not alone. You might think, how can I take care of myself best right now? You might think, what support is available to me as I get through this? So this doesn't mean that you're denying the pain. What it means is that you're employing curiosity. You're looking at resources. You're looking at support. You're not collapsing into despair. So again, the despair can be there, but can it be balanced with these other qualities here that are available to us through mental training? When we show up that second way, we begin to actually look at it through the space of resilience, through connection, and through possibilities. So I want to share with you another interesting study here, and I realize science isn't, necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but I think that this is actually a really interesting study. This was done on a group of individuals, some of which were long-term meditators and some weren't. So here's how this went. Both groups were put into an fMRI scanner, which is a brain scanner. Some of you may be familiar with that. And each person had a small black box on their wrist. What would happen is that there would be a sound that would go off that would alert them to the fact that they were going to get hot water piped through this box, causing a pretty intense burning sensation on their wrist. So the siren goes off and it alerts them to the fact that they're going to experience pain. So let me describe what you're seeing here then. So let's look at the group of non-meditators, which is in the light blue. So what you'll see is there's a little siren icon there. You see that on the screen. The siren goes off in the group of non-meditators, and you know what happens? The brain network associated with pain goes online. What this means is that there was actually no pain present, but they were experiencing pain nonetheless because they knew the pain was coming. They were not present with what was actually happening. Now, what you'll notice is that that arc to come back to baseline takes quite a bit of time. This would be considered low resilience. Low resilience is that it takes a while to come back to sort of that baseline of experience, that baseline of well-being, okay? Now let's look at the group of meditators. What you're going to notice is that their experience was very different. They hear the sound. The sound alerts them to the fact that they're going to experience pain. What happens? Nothing. The pain network in the brain does not go online. They are with what's happening, they're present with what's happening, they don't experience that anticipatory pain that the group of non-meditators did. Then, they receive the burning sensation in the box, the pain network goes online in their brain, of course, they're in pain. But what you'll also notice is that they come back to baseline a lot more quickly. This would be considered high levels of resilience. So these meditators, which you can just talk about meditation in terms of mental training, are able to be present with what's happening without adding all of those extra layers of additional suffering that happens when our mind is off to the races. So we often refer this to the like the monkey mind. The monkey mind is like the mind that likes creating the worst story ever, or the mind that brings us back to the past. It's never helpful, it's never good news. The meditators are with what's happening in a way that helps them to recover more quickly. And so the take-home message here of both the story of the two arrows, as well as this study about recovery from negative events, is that pain is inevitable. We, being in this human body, inevitably experience pain. But the added suffering that our minds create is optional, and we can learn actually how to work with this through mental training. So I want to introduce you to the way that we think about well-being from the neuroscience, and this is a framework of well-being that we call the 4 pillars of a healthy mind. Now, oftentimes, when we hear about mental training and guided practice, we often think strictly about mindfulness. How many of you here have practiced mindfulness before? Yeah, some of you have. Okay. So we actually recognize that there's a lot more to a healthy mind than just mindfulness, but mindfulness is one skill in a very big picture. So here, the first aspect of well-being that are keys to resilience, we can think about as our capacity to be present. This is called awareness. Our capacity to be present with our thoughts, our emotions, sensations in our body. We can be present with who we're with. And so the skills that we're training here are attention, mindfulness, and self-awareness. So to go back to the story of the two arrows, awareness, this capacity to be present, allows us to be with what's happening rather than getting into all of the mental elaborations that are just like creating a whole story that's just not happening right there in that moment. The second pillar of well-being is around social connection. And of course, we know social connections are really, really important aspects of well-being. In fact, loneliness is on par with smoking, like, I think 10 to 15 cigarettes a day. So we can learn how to train skills like we did at the very beginning today, so skills of appreciation, kindness, and compassion. So what we're doing here is we're nurturing our ability to be able to develop healthy, connected, interpersonal relationships, not just with the people that we like and love, but with people that we don't know, strangers, as well as even people that we have a tough time with. The third pillar of well-being is insight, which are a set of skills associated with curiosity. We can begin to actually become more familiar with like our habits of mind. We might have certain emotional habits, mental habits, ways that we experience our self-esteem, our sense of self, and we can begin to get curious about these in a very helpful way. And then the fourth pillar of well-being is purpose, which is really about helping us to connect with meaning in our lives. Often, when we think about finding meaning, we think that we have to do something drastic like volunteer or donate, and of course, all of these things are important, but actually, purpose and meaning are here underlying everything that you do. The fact that you're here at this symposium means that you find something meaningful about this community, right? So it's about actually recognizing what is meaningful, recognizing why we're doing the things that we're doing, and being able to come back to that meaning as a source of inspiration time and time again. And so all of these pillars of our Healthy Minds framework are central to resilience and flourishing. They are related to specific brain networks. They can be learned and cultivated, and they have roots in the world's wisdom traditions. So even if you don't think of yourself as ever wanting to meditate, I would like to just suggest a bit of a reframe here. And the reframe is that this isn't necessarily about meditating, which is like, has a whole bunch of baggage with it. This is actually about mental training. This is about harnessing the power of your brain to thrive, to be resilient. And that's an amazing thing to do. That is a true act of self-care, is utilizing the power of your mind. So just like you are doing movement-based practices to impact your well-being, knowing that that's a really important part of your journey, here we're also working with the power of the mind. So normally, when we think about practicing or training the mind, we often think that we have to be in a quiet spot and we have to sit still by ourselves. And for many people, especially those that like have a hard time sitting still or might, have ADHD, that can feel like the most painful thing in the world. So seated practice, like the one that we just did at the very beginning, is of course one way to train our mind. But we take a much more expansive view. We can actually learn to train our mind while we're being active. So for example, when you might be moving, when you might be going for a walk or going on a wheelchair stroll, or you might be dancing, doing physical therapy, like there's a way that you can actually train your mind when your body's in motion, which is very inspiring. And then there might be those of you that are just like, I don't really want to do any formal training, but you might want to do short moments of practicing the skills throughout your day. And that's certainly another way to be able to train your mind. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to lead you in two practices. One, again, is more of like a formal kind of seated practice, but we're going to work in a bit of a fresh way. And then we're going to do an active practice so that you can get an experience of what it's like to train your mind, okay? Okay, so this first activity here that we're going to do, we are going to train two different really important skills, the skills of attention and mindfulness. So again, these are skills associated with helping us to be present. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pipe in some sounds into this room that you might commonly hear maybe when your windows are open or maybe when you're out on a walk. The aim here is that you are just simply going to listen to the sounds and you're just going to know that you're listening. So it's almost like your mind and your ear are together, just being present with hearing. Then, when you recognize that your mind has wandered off, you're like, oh, this is dumb, judging yourself. You might be like, when do we get to have a break? So there might be a lot of things going on. You just actually recognize when your mind has wandered and you come back to hearing, okay? And so I'll prompt you just a couple of times through this. So I'm going to go ahead and just ask for Seth to play the bird sounds in the environment. And can you turn up maybe just a little tiny bit? So I just want you to listen to the birds. You just know that you're hearing. Continue listening here for a moment. When your mind wanders, come back to the bird sounds and knowing that you're hearing. Okay. We'll go ahead and stop the bird sounds. Okay, so here we did something really important, and it kind of probably just seems super simple, right? Birds playing, listening to birds, recognizing when we're distracted, and coming back. So the question is like, how does this even matter? How does this impact well-being? Okay, so here's how this goes. Attention, the skill of attention, you can think about almost like the flashlight of your mind being directed to something specific. And you can actually intentionally choose what you're paying attention to. So for example, when you are in the middle of a tough situation, rather than getting stuck in this like negative thought loop, you can actually choose to do something like bring attention to the sounds in your environment, the sounds of birds. You can choose to bring awareness to your breath. And what this does is it actually allows a really important part of your brain to come online. That part of the brain is called the central executive network, and that name doesn't matter so much, but what it does is it actually allows you to regulate your responses to things. It's almost like your brain's wise counselor. So rather than generating a whole story that's causing a lot of problems for you that's not rooted in what's actually happening, you can actually bring that part of your brain online by being present and choosing to direct your attention to whatever aspect of your experience you want to work with. Sound, breath, body, visual object. Now, the other skill that we just trained there is the skill of mindfulness. And the skill of mindfulness is actually just knowing where your mind is at any moment. So you can know, if your mind is distracted, you can know if you're present, you can know if you're having thoughts, emotions. And so mindfulness is that quality that allows you to recognize, oh, my mind is off to the races, and you can choose to come back. Mindfulness is that quality that helps you to come back again and again. So these are two really important skills when you think about the story or the metaphor of the two arrows. When you notice that you've got all of these mental shenanigans going on, attention allows you to prioritize what you want to pay attention to in that moment, and mindfulness helps you to stay on track. So maybe a little bit easier said than done, seems simple, but our capacity to begin to rewire our brain in a healthier way is possible due to that principle of neuroplasticity. Now, we're going to do more of an active practice. So active practice, as I mentioned, is more about practicing the skills while your body is in motion and knowing that movement is good for anybody, regardless of whether you have Parkinson's or not. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a movement-based practice, and this is completely optional, but we're going to do just like a little bit of jamming, a little bit of moving. I'm going to play a tune that makes me happy, and I'm going to invite you to stand up if you choose to do so and if you have the capacity to do so. And there are other ways that you can do this. If you don't have the capacity to stand, you can do this seated. And if you don't want to do it, you can just listen to the music and enjoy. Okay? So the way that this is going to work is I'm going to play the sound, and the skill is the same. You're going to listen to the music, and you're going to know that you're listening, and you're just going to move your body, and you're just going to see how that feels. Okay? When you notice that you're distracted, come back to listening to the music. And we'll do this just for a little bit. We're going to see how this goes. So if you accept my challenge and my invitation to rise up, okay? And I'm going to have our friends begin to pipe the music in. Okay, so I just want you to, start moving your body a little bit if you can and if you want to. Notice your hearing. Okay, notice when you're distracted, come back to hearing. Now you can make the movements as big as you want or small, or maybe it's just like a little toe tap. Yeah? Okay. Come on. Nice. Now, do you know that you're hearing? Keep listening. You're doing great. Keep going. Okay, we'll close it there. Thank you so much. I'll invite you to take your seat. And now I actually just want you to notice how you're feeling. Okay, how do you feel from moving your body? If you feel better, give me a thumbs up. Okay, if you felt self-conscious doing that, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, of course, right? If you were aware that you were hearing music, give me a thumbs up. That's it, right? Now, it's a little bit harder to notice when you're distracted when you're around something so pleasant like music. How many of you recognized when you weren't hearing anymore and you came back to hearing? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, few of you. So this is a capacity that can be strengthened through time. So far, we've learned how to do seated practices, right? We've done appreciation, we've done mindfulness and attention, we've done an active practice, and then we can actually, after this, then begin to bring the skills out into our daily lives. And so this is what it looks like. Oh, I actually thought I had a slide there, and I don't. So here's how it looks. What you can do is you can actually, just at any time throughout your day, notice that you're hearing. Notice that you're hearing sounds in your environment and come back to hearing again and again. And one very easy way to do that is through just choosing an activity that you do regularly throughout your day. Maybe it's every time you walk to the bathroom, every time you get a cup of water, every time you have a cup of coffee, you practice listening. And that's it. So just short moments of rewiring your brain in a healthy way. So if this inspires you and you feel like this is something that you want to try, like a science-backed program, there is a completely free training program for the mind called the Healthy Minds Program. And the way that the program is set up is that it actually has podcast-style lessons around the science of well-being, and then there are guided practices that can be customized. So you can choose the length of practice, 5 to 30 minutes. You can choose the speaker voice. You can choose whether or not you want to do an active practice or a seated practice. And it's a completely free resource. We've won many different awards, from Wirecutter to Healthline to Vogue. So lots of content there if you feel inspired to train your mind. And I think what makes this different than other apps or other programs is that you will definitely be taken on a learning journey through awareness, connection, insight, and purpose. So again, you can download this at your app store, Healthy Minds Program. And so here's what we covered today then. We talked about well-being as a skill that can be learned. We learned about recovery from negative events, the science behind it, the 2 arrows. we learned about the 4 pillars of the healthy mind, training for well-being, and then a free resource for you going forward. So I do have a QR code here. If you want to download the app, you can just take a picture with your camera. And I just want to thank you so much for your kind attention today. It's been really wonderful being with you, and I want to give you a round of applause for trying to train your mind with me today. So thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. So are you awake now? Yeah. You think that was movement, you've got something coming up next that's really going to get you moving. My name is Daisy Reimer, and I am the Director of Medical Advising and Education for the Wisconsin Parkinson Association. I just wanted to welcome you all today. How many are here for the first time? Raise your hand. Oh, that's quite a bit. Fantastic. Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you and hope that you return again year after year like many of you have. How many of you have been coming for 5 years? Yeah, we've got a number of them. Super. Excellent. Well, this year our theme is empowered living, finding strength in every step of your journey. And I think you'll find that this day is filled with friendships, new and old. You're going to get a lot of new information, and hopefully that'll just make a lot of connections, and you're going to just leave here feeling very empowered. For those of you who have never been to one of our symposiums before, we do incorporate a lot of movement, and we do that on purpose. We don't want you falling asleep while we're talking. But we also know that movement is so important. It's just as important as medications when we're talking about Parkinson's disease. So we do incorporate a lot of mindful movement breaks. And so at this time, I'm going to introduce our first mindful movement instructor, who is Lisa Pritz. Lisa, in 2024, just created a program called Empowered by Movement, but she has been moving and into dance and educating people with Parkinson's for many years, and I think that you're going to get the gist of that real quick because she's going to get you up and moving now. So give a warm welcome to Lisa Pritz.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes, we're good. Okay, yes, so thanks for having me here today. I am going to get you moving. So I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we have this tiny little event coming up this week. The NFL draft. So we only have a little bit of time together. So you had the opportunity to stand just moments ago, and I'm going to give you that same opportunity to stand with me. We're going to have some fun with some ideas around this idea of football, okay? You can join me seated, you can join me standing. I'm going to give you a few simple things to follow, and hopefully it gives you all this great energy that you can take into your day today, all right? So find yourself standing, find yourself seated. Before the music started, I want to show you what we're going to do to start moving. It's going to be 2 knee taps and a clap. So it's a triple movement, right? 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. You got it? That's it. That's all we're going to do to start. Can we have Magic throw some music on for me? All right, here we go. Oh, there it is. Know this song? You know it? You got it. So we're going to use our voices. We're going to use our bodies. You got it. How's the volume? A little bit louder? A little bit louder. Crank up this party. Yeah, here we go. You know the words. We will rock you. All right, throw a hand in the air. Let me see it. We will rock you. Here's number 2. Stop, stop, clap. Stop, stop, clap. Okay, I think we can get a little louder. Let's roll this roof off. Ready? Here we go. Here. We will rock you. Yeah, now there it is. We will rock you. Pattern number 1.
Buddy, you're an old man, poor man.
Hey.
With your eyes gonna make you someday you got mud on.
Stop smiling. This is not fun.
Somebody better put you back into your
Go. We will rock you. Come on.
We will
That's it. You are done. Okay, good. Now you're moving. Are you having fun? Okay. So, quick. 3 referee calls. The first one is safety. Do we all know our football ref calls? Well, this is what Google told me, at least. I don't know if it's accurate. Okay, so this is safety. You're going to clap your hands 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keeping your hands together, we're just going to take those thumbs and move them side to side 8 times. Okay, do you see a pattern? 8 claps, 8 little moves like this. Okay, there's another movement. It is called disqualification. Anybody know the hand signal for disqualification in football? Yeah, you're out of here. Get lost, buddy. Okay? All right, give me a number between 1 and 8. A number 1 through 8. Any number 1 through 8. 4. Okay, you're going to do 4 on one thumb, 4 on the other thumb. Okay, so far so good. And then the last one is, oh, come on, touchdown. How can we make this one move? Oh, heck yeah, raise the roof. Okay, so we have our 3 moves. Ready? Music, please. Shinty referee. Wait, this is a fun one. Here we go, and clap.
In the rugged Highland Mountains, in the land where men are
Side
men,
to side.
the ruddy roar and eagle
Let's practice
soar,
this
you'll
another
find him
time.
in
Here we
the
go.
glen.
Safety.
His whistle and his stopwatch and the kilt above his
Side
knee.
to side.
The roughest, toughest man around the
Shinty referee, let me see your
When sticks go
thumbs.
whack and
What's our
guns go
number
crack,
again,
these
remember?
clansmen have no
4.
fear. No
4 and
swindling
4.
thief, Madonnas
You got
will
it.
get adulation here.
You got
The
it,
gold
4.
judge and the
Over
linesmen,
here,
they
get
pelters
lost.
rude
You're
and
out of
crude.
here.
It's
Flag
plain
on the
to see
play.
Referee has a dodgy pair.
Here we go, touchdown. Hey,
Hey,
you got it.
Above his
Now,
knee.
can we take this, and I want you to give me a little raise the roof around the neighbors. Little raise the roof to your neighbors, maybe give them a little high 10.
The fighting up
Hey!
and down the pitch was like
Safety!
a bell. Big Jimmy Clark ran up the park and clattered Ronald
Side to
The
side.
referee gave both the knee and shouted,
Do that again.
"I'm the boss!" With
Safety, go.
and his stopwatch and the kilt above his knee.
All right, we're going to add to this. Can you stomp your feet at the same
A
time?
final day near Oban Bay was Newton Moore v.
Side
Kyle.
to side.
That ancient feud again renewed was vengeance.
One more round, safety.
With 30 red and yellow cards, the match was just a
Yahoo!
mess.
Yes.
The referee just gave the
What's the
beat
next
and called
move?
the X.
Disqualification.
His whistle
Let's
and
do
stopwatch and the kilt
new
above
numbers.
his knee.
How about
The toughest man
3
around the shinty
and
referee.
5?
In winter, when
2,
the
3,
Jubilee
4,
is
5,
covered
6,
white with
7,
snow,
8.
they
Oh, 1, 2,
reenact
3.
the massacre that happened in Glencoe.
Good. One
The
more round.
Campbells and McDonald's fight with Shinty's
And one more
swinging
round.
ball. When skin and hair begins to
What's our
fly,
next
the rest should
move?
free for all. With his whistle and his stopwatch
All right,
and
here we
the
go.
kilt
Now,
above
if you
his
have
knee.
room,
He's the
and you want to
roughest
make this a
man
little, like, I
around
don't
the
know,
Shinty
circly.
referee. His wife one day
Travel in
said
a circle.
with dismay,
You
"It's
got
changed
it.
you as a man."
Yeah, look at all the
Why don't
people.
you
Check it
join
out. How
the
cool is
Alba
this?
crew with Gary
Safety!
and Dan? Or better still, we'll take the boat from Malig or the
Side
sea.
to side.
And with some luck, we'll get to Muck and watch it on TV.
Here we go. High.
His whistle
2,
and his
3.
stopwatch
Now
and
this
the
side
kilt
to
above
side,
his knee.
as low as you can go. Get low. Get low. Here we go. Again.
William Balla, Bullish, Oban, Camanach, and
As low as you can go.
Yes, he travels many miles.
3 and 5.
When Nurchard in Bereric and Loch Sheelan, Newton
2
Moor.
and 6.
Tim Husey, Bewley, Lovett, and Loch Carron by the
1
shore.
and 7.
Glenorchy, Owen, Celtic, Arnamurchan, and
1 and
Straglass.
7.
Kilmorey, Bute, and Lorne, and around
7
the
and 1.
Pass. There's Midder, Gailwell, Leskin, and Glengarry near Loch Ness.
No, that was
Strachar
wrong.
and Lochside Rovers, Capperfay, and Inverness.
No, that's what's next. What's next? Oh, raise the roof. Here we go. All right, get those feet moving underneath your body. Yes, it is.
With his
You got
whistle
it.
and his
Oh, you've been practicing this one. Good work, you guys.
Toughest man around the Shinty referee.
Hey, nicely done, you guys. The Shinty referee. So what we do is we bring things you already know and we make them fun and we get you moving. Did you feel like you were right at the stadium? Okay, one more. Some of you have footballs on your tables. Inflatable footballs. So we're just going to have a little fun tossing those around the room, okay? So music when we're ready. Go ahead. We can get that fired up. All right. If you're not tossing a football, I want you to imagine you just made it to the end zone. Let me see those footballs flying around. End zone dance. Whatever your end zone dance is.
Money on my mind, I'm kicking ass, taking
yes, a little celebration.
Yeah,
there they go.
I'm hustling, I was born.
All right, show me a little blocking. Little block. Yes, you can block with your forearm. You can block with your hand. You can block high. You can block low. Here we go. Run. Are you ready? Hey, yes. Are you ready? Are you ready for an amazing day today? All right, here you go. Let's block. 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 Straight arm block. All right, here we go. Tackle. Hold them down. Tackle, hold them down. Don't let them up. Here we go, 2 more. Tackle, hold them down. Freeze. Keep those footballs popping. I see it. You got it. Here we go. Raise it up. All right, we're going to get the crowd going. All right, you're the player on the field. And I want some engagement in the crowd. Here we go. Bring it up. You got it. You guys are amazing. All right, here we go. Heisman pose. Switch. Heisman pose. Oh, hell. Heck yeah, Babs. There it is. Heisman pose, and I want you to look where you're pointing. Oh, it makes it a little harder. One more. You got it. All right, here we go. Safety.
Wait and see. They gonna talk about me. Just wait and see. Wait and see. They gonna
Safety
talk about
again.
me. Just wait and see. Wait and see. They gonna talk about me. I'm gonna be very legendary.
Oh, let's do more. How about a block? Grab, block. You got it. Tackle him. Down. Reach. Tackle. Reach. Tackle. Yes, and if you can smile while you're tackling, it makes you much friendlier. Reach. Tackle. Reach. Almost there, you guys. Almost to the finish line. To the end zone. You're going to give me your final finish line pose. Yeah, nicely done. We did it. You did it. Go to work, you guys. That is it. All right, I'm going to conclude this. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for having a little fun, tossing those footballs around. I think we're good, right? We're all done? Thanks, Stacy. Appreciate it.
I told you you would get moving. Wasn't that fantastic? You guys gave off a lot of energy there. Fantastic. So we are going to be, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you.